Hello and welcome back, artists and designers. Today we are going to dive into the world of typography and working with fonts in Illustrator. So if you haven't yet, please do watch the video linked in the description below because it'll give you a good background on some of the basics that we're going to go over here, including font categories and some of the key terminology that we'll talk about. All right, so go ahead and get this worksheet downloaded, and you're going to be looking to create something along the lines of this. In this first video, we're only going to deal with the first page, but there are 5 other pages that we will cover in other videos. So let's dive in here. I'm going to go to my blank page here, and I'm going to grab the text tool and click on that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between point text and text box. So we're going to start there. So I'm going to go ahead and click once, and it's going to auto-populate with some text here. Lorem ipsum is kind of the default filler here, and if I click off of that, you can see it's in black. I'm going to go ahead and make that white, make it a little bit easier to see. Actually, let's do this green so that we can see the difference between the point text and text box. So if you click once, that is point text. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. If I go down here to my font menu, I can make that a little bit larger. And now let's do the same thing, but let's do it with a click and drag as a text box. So if I click and drag, you're going to see that it's going to auto-populate here with text. And again, let's make this a different color. So this is for a block of text. Typically, 9 times out of 10, when I'm graphic designing stuff here, I'm just going to use the point text, click once, and then type single words or 2 words or something like that. Unless I had a chunk of text, I would be doing this. Here's one of the reasons why we do that. I can click on this with my selection tool, and of course I can make my font bigger and smaller over here. But I can also now grab it on the corner, and again, you want to make sure you hold that shift key down, and I can enlarge it this way. On the other hand, when I click the text box version, if I click and drag, you're going to notice that the text isn't changing size, it's just the text box. And if I make my text box too small, you end up with this plus symbol warning you that there is text that cannot fit into the size of the box that you have. So long story short, we're mostly going to use point text here where we click once and create our text. So I'm going to go back to that, click once, I'm going to type in my word canyon here, and I'm just going to do lowercase for right now. Canyon, there we go. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to choose white as my fill just to kind of get me started. So there we go. I'm going to crank this up a little bit to maybe like 70-point font so that I can see that. I'm going to take that right there. You have your basic character menu down below here. That is in your properties panel. I'm going to be using, I went up here to window, I went down to type, and I chose character, and then I kind of anchored this over here because sometimes I have trouble accessing some of my fonts and things down there. So this is the same thing, I just kind of moved it over here. So the default font is Myriad Pro. Of course, there's a whole bunch here. We're going to explore some of these shortly, but I'm going to start with Myriad Pro to demonstrate the next 3 things: tracking, kerning, and leading. So if I take this and I duplicate it, okay, and I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm just dragging that down, so I have 3 separate text boxes here. Let's talk about the tracking and kerning first. So this is the default text here. You can see that this is the tracking over here. That is 0. Now if I click over here and I check the drop-down menu for tracking, this is -100. That's going to really kind of squeeze those letters together. And let's grab this one, and let's go to our tracking here and do +200. And you can see that's the same font, and this is normal tracking, this is compressed tracking, and then this is expanded tracking here. So it's evenly spacing out all of those letters in the font. Now, the only difference about kerning, if I click on this original one, kerning is right over here. It's not going to let me do anything because kerning is for individual letters. So you probably won't have to do this, but if you click on the space in between, let's say the Y and the N, I'm going to zoom in, and then I can start to click on this. I can either tighten up the space in between the Y and the N or expand it. So this is good for fine-tuning if you're creating a logo and there's awkward spacing between letters, but you're probably not going to need it for this. So tracking, kerning. The last thing is leading. Leading is going to be the spacing between separate lines of text. So I'll go back to my text box option here. If I have a block of text here, and let's make this white so that we can see it, and then I choose my leading, I can compress that or space that out depending on here. So again, since we're using single words, we're not really going to need this today, but that is an option right there that you can explore. There are a whole bunch of other things that you can look at in this menu. If you click the 3 lines up here and do show options, or alternatively go down here, that's going to show you the same options as well. You can explore some of the other things here. You can stretch out the proportion of the letters this way, height or width. You can also choose all caps, small caps, some other preset things here that you can explore, and you can even rotate letters, which is kind of interesting. So lots of other things to explore in that menu right there. So some basics of the character and type menu. Let's go ahead and dive into some different fonts here now that we know some of the basic terminology. So I'm going to take the same word canyon here. I'm going to move this over, and let's copy this a few more times. So hold down that Alt key and just kind of drag that out a few more times. So right now we have the default font, pretty boring. It's Myriad Pro. It's what it goes in when you click text to start with, but let's pick a couple other fonts. This is a sans serif font, meaning it doesn't have those extra little things here. So let's pick one that has a serif to it. You could scroll through these fonts and try to find something, but the nice thing is you have right under fonts here a filters menu. And I can click on this and I have a bunch of different options. So you have your basic types here, so sans serif, serifs, slab serifs, script fonts, and the list goes on. You also have properties that you can choose from if you're looking for a thin font versus a heavy font, etc. So let's click on sans or serif font right here. So once I click on that, you're going to see a bunch of options that populate here that are only fonts that have those serifs. So I can go through and find one like Chapman Black, and there we go. That one has a serif to it. Looks a little bit nicer. It gives it that kind of classy look, classical look to it. So let's go in and try another one. So I'm going to click on here. I'm going to do my filters again, and this time I'm going to do script or calligraphic. So I'm going to click on that one, and you're going to see that it populates with a bunch of various script fonts here. I just want to show you, be careful with script fonts because a lot of times these are not going to look good if you have all caps. So for example, if I check this one right here, let's do this one. I think everybody has the Berkshire one. So this looks okay. I can tell some of the kerning and everything is a little bit off on this. But if I try to make this all caps, it's really not going to look very good. And this one is not terrible, actually. There are some that look even worse. But you got to be careful because a lot of these, like that one looks pretty terrible in all caps. Like you wouldn't want to have that in all caps. That is meant to have a lowercase look to it, so definitely explore that. So go ahead and try some different typefaces here, explore those different categories and copy a word a few times and see if you can't put one for some of the different categories. I'm going to show you one final thing here right in this same menu, so I'm going to duplicate this one more time. And let's go back up here to this font menu. So you've got probably over 100 built-in fonts here. But let's, for example, say you wanted something that wasn't available. If you go right here to find more, it'll take a second to initialize the first time you do it and check your login. But when you hit find more, that filtering option is still going to work. So if you want to look for, let's say, handwritten style fonts, these are going to be fonts that are not on your computer yet. So let's say you want one of these fonts. You're like, okay, I like this Blambot one right here. I'm going to click on that, and then I go right over to the Activate menu, and that's going to take a second. It's going to activate that font, and it will download it so that now it is available. I can click on it, and I actually, you can also type in the font name. So once you learn the font name, I know that was Blambot. Oh, no, maybe I don't know the name. Oh, let's see. It was just in here. Did it not download for me? Oh, it's Pretty sure it just did. All right, well, in any case, you can go ahead and download fonts that you want. Just go over and hit the little activate button here. It'll take a second. It'll activate the font for you. So go ahead and fool around with that. Get some different fonts on this page. Explore some things. You can make these whatever colors you want. So have some fun messing around with that today. And I look forward to seeing what you guys can do with this. And we will move on to some more things with fonts in the next video. Good luck, guys. Have fun creating.